Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to this exciting online session organized by the Entrepreneurship Initiative at IIT. I am Vansh, and I will be the moderator for this session. This session will focus on topics like quantum consulting methods, startup growth, and global expansion. And for that, we are joined by Mr. Subhopati Sanyal as the co-founder and COO of Nistula Group of companies. He brings a wealth of experience to our virtual stage. A true global BPO expert, startup mentor, and quantum consulting strategist, Mr. Sanyal is at the forefront of innovation and leadership in the industry. Join me in welcoming him as he shares his invaluable insights with us today. Mr. Sanyal will impart his wealth of experience and knowledge on these subjects during a 40-minute session, after which we will take questions from the audience. The stage is yours, sir.
Thank you so much, Vansh. And am I allowed to share something?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Okay, can all of you see my screen?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Clearly visible, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for having me. I wish to extend my heartfelt greetings to all of you. I personally am really excited. And by the way, am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir,
Like,
you're audible.
okay. So basically, I am absolutely thrilled to be a part of this session, especially when it's something called an entrepreneur initiative. And I wish to thank Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar, and and their EII initiative for having me. Thanks to Rupak for reaching out to me and for giving me the opportunity to be part of this session. So basically, this is what I'm expecting out of the session. I am expecting an enthusiastic engagement, some inquisitive minds, some diverse perspectives, some innovative thinking. And while we go ahead with our discussions, we would look at the entrepreneurial spirit, and definitely I will be looking for some aspiration for impact. So as I go ahead, just a little brief of what the Nistula Group of companies is. These are the four flagship companies of the Nistula Group, NBS being the principal consulting phase. Centrita handles the branding and marketing. Delphi takes care of the only product division that the Nistula Group has, which deals with point of sale hardware and software. And Nistula Engineering, who primarily deals with optimization in businesses and industries dealing with engineering services. Nistula Group goes back 11 years and has achieved over 22 awards, and we have served over 150 clients across 18 countries. Having said that, personally about me, I am, as you had seen in the flyer, first thing that those of you who are with me on LinkedIn, you would notice that I am a Sahaji Yogi first, apart from whatever professional tags that carry my name. Sahaja Yoga is basically something which was propounded. It's a system of meditation which was propounded by Her Holiness Srimati Nirmala Devi. It's a simple process of meditation that helps awaken the subtle qualities and strengths inside human systems and enables us to increase our boundaries of achieving solutions and finding greater happiness in life. You can take note of the URL, sahajayoga.org. And it's a very simple process of meditation, very scientific system. It doesn't involve standing on one leg, going for fastings, the typical, the things that are associated with terms like meditation and yoga. It's very simple. I have been doing this for the last 26, 27 years now. The reason why I put in this slide is because what I am going to discuss is principally based on the principles of Sahaja Yoga. And of course, if you guys would be interested, it will take me 10 minutes odd. Once we have the session, I can always teach you guys, all of you, this very simple system of meditation, which you can do at your, own leisure time, whenever you feel like wake up in the morning, spend 5 minutes before going to sleep, spend 5 minutes. it'll do a world of difference, to your life. Now, I'll start off with the quantum consulting methodology. Now, when I talk about quantum consulting, now, you know, I wouldn't use the word mischief, but I would rather say that, when I termed our consulting methodology as quantum consulting, I did try, I will be very honest with you, I did try to brush a few hairs uh, on the wrong side. Because whenever you speak of, when you mention terms like quantum, because quantum has been associated with, very serious, deep studies, which involves vastness, which involves, huge results. It involves a huge amount of, scientific and technical serious expertise and stuff like that. So the question is, how does it come into play in the quantum concept? Now, before I go ahead, let me make something very clear that, the way we process, where we do our consulting at Nistula, it's it's different because as I, if I share a little bit of my journey, when I started back along with my wife, who's the CEO and founder of the Nistula Group, when we both started off, the first, because it was very clear, if we would consider ourselves a startup, basically what we are doing is we are coming in as consultants for the global business service domain because that is where we specialize, both of us. Now, when we started our company, it's a consulting startup has its own challenges. The knowledge, the expertise, the technologies that you have, that is not so much of a problem. Wherein the basic, the most important challenge is what different are you going to deliver to businesses who come to you with problems. And this came across in our pitch. Every time we pitched to a client, sorry, we used to face the same question. I mean, we can hire anybody. Why you? When it comes to products, you have an opportunity to share your USPs. You have an opportunity to share your niche. You have an opportunity to share, what the product might achieve. But when it comes to services, specifically something as simple as consulting services, there were a lot of questions. So it was very important for us to create an USP. And principally being a Sahaj Yogi, the principles that I have followed in my entire life, it propagated that there are very basic things that will form the purview of our consulting system. So if I go to the next slide, in one word, you will understand what basically quantum consulting is. Now, if you read what is there on the screen, it says, the synergistic summation of a binary pair culminates in the incontrovertible manifestation of four, aligning seamlessly with the principles of computational inevitability. Take 15-20 seconds to read what is on the screen. The synergistic summation of a binary pair culminates in the incontrovertible manifestation of four, aligning seamlessly with the principles of computational inevitability. Now, when I've said that, I'll go to the next slide. If you want to know what is quantum consulting, this is quantum consulting. The previous slide exactly had this. So what I personally found when I came into consulting, my entrepreneurial venture, as you might put it as, the first thing I was practically bombasted, which is verbal superiority. And that is exactly what you saw in the last slide. Guys, business, if I seriously go by what one of our CEO very interestingly says, that business is controlled by people and the characteristics of success are human. Now, if you go by that, so business is all about human. So when you look at a business, it's basically humans, human interaction, human manifestation, human actions, human desires, everything human that is going about there. And it's very simple. It's very simple. So what is the difference? What difference is this methodology? See, in a normal approach, if you see the next slide, you see, let's say the prison, we take business as a prison because business has a lot of horizontals and verticals, a lot of matrices, honeycombed into this entire concept, of business per se. So in a normal approach, we look at a business, we put an input, we study the business, we get an output. But with quantum approach, what we do is basically we go through the business, we understand the business, we simplify the needs, the problems, we subtract the uncontrollables, we focus on the controllables, we figure out what is the first step. If you guys have heard about Pareto, the 20-80, 20% of the solutions impact 80% of the problems. So we look at those 20% and then we create an output which gives a sustainable solution for the business. And that's basically what our principal aim with this type of consultancy is: sustainability. Anybody can achieve growth, anybody can achieve revenue. You just have to, do some permutations, combinations, play with technology, data, understand certain strategies, implement them, and then you get a result and you get growth, you get revenue. But the key is understanding the sustainability, the consistency of growth, the business continuity concept, where you consistently maintain growth. So if I say, I'm not going to give you technological jargons and things like that. These are the 7 principles of quantum consulting methodology. It's simple: purity and wisdom. We approach businesses with purity. There is no beating around the bush. There is no using of jargons. It's looking at a business clearly, understanding it clearly in clear black and white. If there's something is seriously wrong, it is wrong. That's the truth. If you remember my previous slide where I gave a huge definition of 2 + 2 = 4, words don't change anything. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the truth. What is remains what is. So purity and wisdom, very wisely we look at businesses, we look at innovation. We look at deep seeking. When it comes to deep seeking, we are looking at deep dive into analytics, into data. Businesses are storehouses of data. Business, it is irrespective of the size. It can be a very small business. It can be a micro. It can be a mini. It can be a large business. All businesses are storehouses of data. And anything and everything you need to know about a business is right there in that data. So deep diving into that data. Our principle is very daunting yet accommodative. It's very, if I put it in very simple words, in a very human perspective, it's very fearless. This methodology is very fearless. It doesn't bother about norms. It doesn't bother when we approach a business. We don't bother about norms and nuances and rules. Set rules that businesses have set in particular domains. It has to be a clear dive, and it has to be a clear dive. Yes, we do accommodate a lot of variables because otherwise consulting does not find its meaning. This methodology is very, very inclusive. We are extremely inclusive in our approach, yet we are very detached. I understand there are a lot of terms that I have used here per se, which none of you have probably heard anywhere being used in a business perspective. You probably have heard them being used in human perspectives, and that is probably the place where we where our success lies, the way we look at businesses. And then looking at everything from a rational, fresh perspective. Yes, we do put relevance to history, past data, what the business has projected for itself. Why did it project so? What was it thinking when it projected? It has certain projections, it has certain budgetary projections. Could be, its costs, its sales, its revenue, everything. There has to be a relevance to why they have done that. They just didn't, not five people sat together and just decided to do it. No, there has to be a perspective. We definitely give a lot of relevance to that perspective, but we look at it on a very rational level. We don't think that, okay, this happened before, so this is going to happen now. We don't believe in conditionings, and we do not say that we had achieved it that this way, so I'm sure it's going to happen this way. No, we don't. We don't allow that ego to come. It's a very fresh perspective. And of course, the seventh principle is sustainable. Anything and everything, the first principle that we look at is sustainability. And all of you, this is one mantra that I want to give all of you. Anytime, at any moment, in whatever domain you are looking at entrepreneurship, please understand the only thing that you need to keep in mind is sustainable. Moment you decide that you want to be an entrepreneur, be ready for disruption. It could be from competitors, it could be from companies, other startups from the same domain, it could be from large competitors who want to completely capture the market. It could be anywhere. Disruption can come from anywhere. The key is sustainability. Start thinking from that point of view. Create your startup from the point of sustainability. Decide on products, decide on services. Decide on your growth path, decide on the size of your startup, everything. Start from the point of sustainability. Because I want to go into the question answer session fast, so I'm just wrapping up. So if you guys have noted down any questions for quantum consulting, you can share it with now, or you can just keep it. We can answer it once we do the question answer sessions. Now, coming to the forum that it is, the entrepreneurship initiative, the startup, I call it a brilliance in itself. Startup is a best way that what I say that startups are the best ways that entrepreneurs can manifest their goals in all trueness and all honesty. That's what I believe startups are. It's that passion, that that entire concept, the dream, whatever word you want to use it at, whatever definition you want to give it at. A startup is basically everything about an entrepreneur. It all boils down to that, that one single moment of decision making that gives birth to a concept that may or may not become a big business decision, but that decision making moment is absolute brilliance. So normally, I personally, being a startup mentor, I am with Vadvani Foundations as one of their mentors. I'm also part of the Government of India Ministry of Commerce and Industries initiative, MARG. I'm a registered mentor there. So and apart from that, I also deal with a lot of startups. So the 7 basic, success strategies that I give to startup is, first is ethical entrepreneurship. If you want to get into the startup ecosystem, please understand, again, start with sustainability. What will help me overcome disruptions, overcome competition, overcome challenges? Believe me, I always say this. If you are thinking about something which you think is an idea, believe me, there are millions who have already thought about it. 30% of those people are already acting on it. 20% of it, 15% of those people have already started it. 5% of those people are already successful. There is nothing new and innovative. This entire population, somewhere, some point of the world, is exactly thinking what you're thinking. Some are already acting. Some have already started and some are already successful. So everything and anything, you have to understand that if you want to start up a business, as soon as you start up, be ready for disruption. As simple as that. That's the reality. That's the stark reality. And you need to understand, like right now, if you look at the global economy, if you look at the supply bar and the demand bar, correct? So it's somewhere like this. So the supply demand bar is the demand. I'm sorry, the supply and demand bar is like this. So the supply is higher than the demand. This is basically where the overall global economic matrix is standing. So whereas, in a situation where the supply is higher than the demand, startups need to be intelligent startups. I call it an intelligent startup ecosystem. In fact, I've started writing a book on that. It's probably going to be my 6th book. So it's all to do with how do you survive disruption. So first is ethical entrepreneurship. Second is please don't ignore the domain knowledge. Whatever domain you decide. Now that is a very big question. Which domain would you decide to go in with your startup? What kind of a domain? What idea? In which domain have you decided? I always advise that sit back and think there is always one thing that you really do well, probably do best. If you are planning to have a career as an entrepreneur, think about that. And we have been taught, funnily, we have been taught to, it's funny, but the fact is we have been taught to think, our qualities in very, very fixed variables, oh, I'm good in maths, I'm good in studies, I have leadership quality, okay, I'm a good engineer. These are very, very, direct variables. You probably, whenever you guys are hanging out, all of your friends are hanging out, you probably are the guy who leads that entire, hangout session. You are probably the center of attraction. That's your skill. Identify it. Because that is what is going to lead you, give you that, you will find that strength which is going to help you overcome disruption. So define your domain very critically, understand what is one thing that is going to be very difficult to put you down for. You have to understand, identify that. And that's not very hard. You just have to think, go inside, think. So continuous learning and development. Agile innovation. Okay, now you guys have probably heard a lot about agile. As I told you, all my concepts are based on the principle, because even those of you who are with me on LinkedIn, you will see that my first thing that comes under my name is Saiji Yogi. Saiji Yoga, apart from other things, has basically taught me to understand the truth of things. Not get overwhelmed. The basic strength that Sahaja Yoga gives you is you don't get overwhelmed. Now, it's very easy to get overwhelmed because now in this era of technology and, with a lot of, large language modules coming, we were trained with databases. There are also intelligent models. So it is very easy. The technology is taking leaps. Previously, it used to take jumps, but now it's taking leaps. It's very easy to get overwhelmed. It gives me the strength not to get overwhelmed, to look straight into the eye of things and exactly understand the nature of it. Now, if I ask you a question, a lot of you, when in your school days, when you used to come home, your mom used to ask you, "Are you hungry?" And you said, "Yes, mom, of course, I am hungry." What would you like to have? You want to have rice or you want to have roti? Or, the other options. You say, for example, let's take for this case study, you say, "I want to have roti." So what would you like to have with roti? You want to have aloo ki sabji or etc. 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 So you say these are the available things. So which one would you like to have? You would say it. And say if you had rice, then your mom would say, if you are having rice, then I'll put a little more gravy. If you're having roti, I'll put less gravy. So at every point of time before that food, because you're hungry, that was your imperative demand. Every time before that food came in front of you, your mom was there asking at every level to ensure that ultimately the product that comes in front of you completely meets with the demand that you have. That, my friends, is basically what agile is. And we have been facing agile from the times we have seen our grandmothers do it with us, our parents do it with us, our friends. Every time you go, you hang out with your friends for a movie. Somehow or rather, just to make that occasion happy, you would find your friends giving you suggestions, your friends coming in with us options, suggestions, just to make sure that nobody misses out and the hangout is a great hangout session. All of you enjoy. This continuous interaction of and continuous innovation, continuous changing. That, my friend, is if you go into the understand the agile concept, that's basically it. And then they put that concept as a technology and they created processes out of it. The concepts like scrums and everything. So it's basically these questions that are put up on a board, and these they are worked upon, finally the results achieved, and the whole idea is to ensure that the client is happy. So that's basically it. Think simple. Again, remember those two slides. Those two slides were very important. The first slide and the second slide, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Try to see the 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. That is exactly where the truth, the reality lies. See, both of them are definitions. If I put both of them in front of you, it does not change the reality of the question that what is 2 plus 2? One answer is that paragraph, the answer is 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. It does not change the reality. Look at the reality. The more you look at the reality, more you understand the reality, more you are closer to not being overwhelmed by disruption, more you're closer to your startup being sustainable. Look for collaborations. Remember, we are not supposed to do everything. And second is, don't go around reinventing the wheel. Somebody has already done something. Collaborate. Learn to collaborate. The more you collaborate, you have to understand, if you're looking at a global matrix, one day it might come like the demand is higher than the supply. Good for all of us. Good for all businesses. But right now, the matrix, global matrix is supply is greater than demand. The only way you can increase your strength is increase your team. Go for collaborations. Always focus on your customer. Your customer is everything. Your customer is completely everything, nothing else except your customer. Always be customer centric. Be extremely data driven. There is nothing more than data. Your decision making does not depend on what somebody else is doing in somebody else's business. Your data has to be dependent on your decision making has come, sorry, not data. Your decision making has to be dependent on what data your business, your startup is giving. And second is global market orientation. Think global, start local. Sustainable. Find out, are you sustainable now? Because global market is a different ballgame. When you're operating local, you have a sense of control. That is why you started local. And then when you grow global, understand whether your business is capable of facing the disruption of global businesses. Take decisions one at a time. There's no ego about it. It's okay. Fine. I am a local player for the last 3 years. Great. Okay, this business it shot off global in 6 months. Good for them. Your business will shoot up global after 4 years. Fine. But the question is that business sustainable? What about sustainability? What about consistency? What about growth? How much have you earned? How much have you have in the bank? That's the crux. And of course, I will just touch base upon, I mentioned about, all of you were talking about the BPO, which is actually a part of the global business service domain. This is a boon for business continuity. It comes as a part of the collaborative aspect, which I shared with you. Global business service is basically, these are set on four pillars, five, 6 pillars: finance and account, sales and marketing, recruitment, ITES, procurement. These are the basic pillars of GBS. And businesses generally, they prefer to, to understand, to look at these, these critical areas of, reduction of cost, maximizing client servicing, clients satisfaction. Businesses, if they want to really focus on their core activity, like for I normally I advise a lot of software companies that you focus on your product. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't get overwhelmed by your support functions. Outsource them. There are people, there are experts who are there just to do it for you. You have to figure out the cost concept, the cost aspect of it, and it's always a win-win situation. You cannot hire everybody in your business. Outsourcing helps you with that. It helps in flexibility, lot of flexibility. You can, when you are outsourcing, you have the access of a complete different infrastructure. And with infrastructure, I'm not only talking about real infrastructure, I'm already also talking about human capital. You have improved quality and efficiency. You have a better degree of risk assessment, which is very one of the most critical aspects of outsourcing and shared service. And of course, effective communication and collaboration, because the basic job of your outsourcees are to ensure that your customer, and that is external communication. Internally, you are always in a much more control environment of control when it comes to communicating what you need to be achieved in an outsourcing relationship. So basically, this is what it is. I kept it short because I wanted to be engaging. I would want you guys to question me now if you have any questions, and you're free to ask me any questions in any direction. I mean, whatever you want to ask me about. So just shoot.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for sharing your invaluable insights and expertise with us. Okay. Now we'll open the stage for questions from the audience. So, okay, sir. So we have some questions written down from before the session. So, sir, the
Mhm.
first one is, so what specific go-to-market strategies do you recommend for startups looking to not only grow but establish a foundation for sustained success?
Great. Very good question.
Yes.
See, GTM is one of the principal aspects of any startup, and this is one of the first steps one has to look at when you're looking at strategies that would overcome disruptions for your business. Now, the first step of a good go-to-market strategy is first understand what are you offering. And the next question is, why are you offering that? These are the basic two areas that you need to very, very clearly define. What are you offering and why are you offering? Once you have defined that, third is the imperative question that comes is to whom you would want to offer. First, now when you come to that question, first thing that you need to do is you need to prioritize your market. Very clearly prioritize your market. Look, first you need to understand, okay, I'm going local. Now depends on your product. See, if you are right at the outset, you're catering to a global audience. I'll come to that later, the second part of my answer. But say for example, first you're going local. So first you need to first define the market. Very Again, 2 plus 2, 4. Truthfully define the market. What is the market? Who are the players? Out of them, who are you going to disrupt, and who are not going to allow you to disrupt? Very, very clearly understand this. First, you have to define the market very, very clearly. It's very essential. Whatever market you are catering to, please get enough data about the market. And believe me when I say this, I am not joking, and this is not just a phase. You will never get enough data about the market, no matter how you do. So keep this in mind. Whatever you have, it's never enough. There is always something there that you don't know. So remember this always. And so naturally, what you need to do is you have to very critically define the market and tick all those points. Who are your customers? Moment you identified your customer space, like in one of my books, The Glance of the Dollar Fairy. Dollar Fairy is customers. The fairies who the dollar fairies from whom we earn dollars. So that is where I had clearly mentioned that whenever we look at customers or clients, we directly look at consumers who we can approach. Please understand, when you define the market, look at observers. The market is, consumers is who are committed, whatever product or service that you're offering. A consumer is a potential customer, is somebody who has already committed to using that. So then only at that point of time, he or she would fall into that category of being a potential customer. Now, out of that, there are also people who are contemplating of adopting that particular product or services. These people are observers. And this is a very, very critical segment of the market. You need to be very, very, attentive about this market, because this is where your conversion lies. Because here is an opportunity where you have the option to influence. This is the option where, this is where you have the option to influence. Rest, they are committed. And whenever somebody is committed, understand something, whenever you start talking, I know everything about it. A purchaser will always know everything about everything. Even when you purchase something, you know everything about everything. That's the basic purchasing psychology. But we are talking about observers who are contemplating of, that is, in other words, creating your potential customer base, identifying people who have the tendency of committing to your product or service. That is one. Second is of course, the potential customers who you can replace, who you can displace. There is something called replacement. There is something called displacement. We always think that, when we are selling a product, we if somebody takes my product, I have replaced the other product owner. Sometimes it can be displacement, and displacement basically comes after replacement, depending on how you deal with your customer. So replacement and displace. Also, if your product, now sometimes the customer may not wait for experience to displace its existing product owner with you, provided your product has a definition of giving a solution which overruns what the expectation of your customer. So these are certain areas. Note it down, guys. These are very, very important, and these are practical aspects. I have seen companies, change their entire dynamics of GTM strategy making and strategy formulation by looking at these finer points. Coming to the global market, the second part. Global market is a very, very sensitive market. Understand something, when you are going global, you are also entering a global culture. We think that it's all about our product. Believe me, the way I am talking to you now is acceptable to you because that is how we have spoken since our birth. An American or an European or an Oceanian may not, or a Southeast Asian may not accept this way. We have an office in Philippines. So sometimes first time when I started interacting with people in Philippines, I realized that yes does not have any meaning, because they will not say what they mean, because they don't want to hurt you, so they will not say something which might spoil the mood of the conversation, but they will never come back. For us, nahi chahiye, nahi chahiye, haan chahiye, nahi chahiye. We are very clear about it. So for global market, any GTM strategy that you do, first you have to understand that you are entering a new culture. You have to understand how your product or your service is looked upon. First, you have to train yourself to that. Second is, again, you have to follow the same things. Who are the observers? Who are the potential customers? Who are you replacing? Who are you displacing? Collaboration is one of the main keys for global markets. Remember this. It's always very, very good to collaborate, because your strength lies in global markets, your strength lies in collaboration. If you have a strong player there, or if you have a strong stakeholder there, it's always better to collaborate. Sorry, it's always better to collaborate. That's it. I mean, if you want further clarification, let me know.
Yes, sir. Okay, so we have another question from Man Kumar Jain, sir. Sir, he asks how to check the feasibility of an idea, whether people are looking for such a solution or not.
Okay. I will not go into the, why have you created this idea and stuff like that. Let's say you have created an idea. The first thing what you do is find out who, what are the products and services that have their idea in it, how they are doing, I mean, to what extent they have gone. Okay, let's see, for example, let's take an example. Uh, okay, let's take the in thing, large language models. Okay, say for example, something like ChatGPT. You have an idea, you want to create an innovative platform like ChatGPT. So basic things are the same. You have to train it on a large language, LLM database. So that has to be common. All of these are there. So then you basically find out on these platforms what products, how much they have achieved. What is the max that a product has achieved in a free version, in a paid version? Even for paid versions, what is the maximum one has achieved? Now, when you look at what has one has achieved, you have to look at yourself that how much of capacity do you have in terms of investment and technology and collaboration. Correct? I'll probably, if there is a question, I'll explain that. This concept of investment and startup, this is not something that has to be in sync. Okay, so I'll come to that later on. So whether so you have to understand like what is your capacity, what is your strength in terms of your investment, your technology, your collaborators, to whether you can jump to that extent, or if somebody has already achieved it, remember that's going to be a starting point. Because if you want to stand back in the line and start all over again with all the players, your marketing cost is going to be very high, my friend. So you have to understand whether your business has the capacity to leverage that. But if you want to overcome that area, then what you have to do is you basically go ahead of the line. So in order to go ahead of the line, you figure out how much you have in, what do you have with you, so that you can start with somebody and stop. So just an example. So feasibility of an idea is basically this. And certain other ideas are there. For example, some ideas. Say, for example, specialty cuisines. Now, you can create an innovative food for a taste bud. There probably are a million companies who are producing the same thing. Every taste is unique. The same cook, if he prepares 3 dishes in 3 minutes, all the 3 dishes, the same dish probably, all three of them will, for some instant, a little proportion maybe, or to some little degree, it will taste different. So again, it depends on the idea, but what I told you is basically how you can ratify what kind of idea. Your ideation basically will depend on that. But again, my strong advice to you is sit back and find out what you do best. Then go back to your ideation level and then take that journey. That should be your second step. Before that, before ideation should be what is that one thing that I can do best.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
What's the best time to expanding? Like, should we go to investors and VCs at first, or bootstrapping it? Like, when do you know? When do we know? Like, when to expand?
Okay. See, the Nistula Group is a no loan, no investment company. So I will never, I don't put my business model as a model per se with any of my startups. So I did it, I chose that way. I didn't want external funding to dominate my thought process or the process I want to provide. Now, coming to your question of expansion, see, first look at your product. How convinced are you about your product? And how convinced are your customers? And if you say, you asked me what is the best time or what is the best time? Can you repeat the question once more?
Like, when should we know? Like, should we go to VCs or should we
I
go
mean,
for the
I mean,
bootstrapping
yeah, what is your question? Like, you want to go to VCs for what? You mean, in
for
terms of,
investment to expand my
oh, you're
startup?
expanding your business. Okay. See, when you want to expand your business, first look at your own matrix, your financial matrix, where you are. I mean, the state of your product, how well it is developed. Okay. Second is, what is your, you have to understand your GMV, because your GMV will indicate the validity of your product with your customers, the gross mercantile value, and how much have you sold. Next is, you need to understand how much have you earned, how much do you have in the bank. So it will give you a very clear understanding of the system that your business is going through. So that system will basically actually tell you when you have to expand. A good product, when I say a good product, a product that is reasonably solving problems of your customers and your it depends on the product again, and if it's a long term, whether it's a short term product, or there are a lot of variables. Like, if it's a regular purchase product, how many return customers are there, these questions come. If it's a long term product, what is your customer age, then that comes into the question. So it depends on the product. So depending on these horizontals and verticals, your business will actually tell you that the answer to this question, actually, I will tell you, when you realize that a particular market, that is your particular market has accepted you as a seller. And if you think that is the case, that is the point of expansion. And if you have to expand, depending again on your product, look at your cash reserves, understand your cash reserves. What are your cash reserves? Because your cash reserves will actually tell you what is your. Now, another very important point here I want to mention is your customer acquisition cost. See, if a huge customer base with a high customer acquisition cost is a very dangerous state of a business to go into expansion. You're looking at death straight in the face. So you have to again look at that. What is my customer acquisition cost? But which, if that is well under control, and you're in the driver's seat there, and you more or less see that your product has a reasonable acceptability in the market, and you see that and you have to do some testing also. Suppose you are catering to one particular level of the market, then you go to the next. You try to push it forward. You see the acceptability, yes, it is being accepted, then you push a little forward. And believe me, these pushes don't need extra funding. Your existing production capacity will be able to cater to that, right? In most of the cases I have seen that in a business looking for expansion, primarily, it's if in case of an underutilized business, there is enough space for you to explore the market. If it is overutilized, that your demand is such that you cannot cater to the market, then your business is already in the expansion shelf. And then you have to come back and understand that if your business has so much of a high demand, if it is only about the production capacity, then that's a logical reason why you need to increase the production capacity. And then I think The best option is you should go for debt if you are allowed to. I mean, in terms of the rules and regulations allow you to go for debt and clear it out as early as possible. Or if you are looking for an investor, understand, I would say again, if you are conversed with your customer, collaborate with your customers. Customers can be anybody who are potential resellers. Collaborate with them. Getting in external funding is ideally, see, if you ask me, actually, I'm the wrong person to say this because I did my business in a different way. But I always have taken it as the last resort to take in external funding. I always had, our own business sustain our expansion model. Again, my business model is different. It's not product oriented. So again, I would say that yes, if the first scenario is the case that it's underutilized, there is enough opportunity for your business to cater to that expansion. If you are overutilized, yes, that is the point of time you should go for external borrowings. It could be investor or it could be, in fact, investors would be happy to give it to you, provided you have those metrics in place. The other metrics in place, because an investor, remember something, investor, you own your business, your investor does not. Your investor owns the money that he or she is putting in. The exit is the only important thing for the investor, or the gain that you're looking for, your scalability of your business. These are basic areas that investors will look at. So that's what it is. I hope I have been able to answer your question. If not, you can, again ask me a question if there's something missing.
Yes, I surely like it. Got a lot of more perspective. In fact, yeah, it's always a question like when to give some equity and take some money, like to go for a mass expansion or like staying, like know the gap between like when to do that thing, or like bootstrapping and having the equity to yourself.
Bootstrapping is the best if you can do it. I mean, nothing like it. I would say collaboration again. Collaboration is an amazing. People do not explore collaboration. That's the unfortunate part. Believe me, if you explore collaboration, you will be surprised. What you have in store there, it's amazing.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else want to ask a question? Okay, so we are going to the final question of the session, sir. So, how does one balance the need for rapid growth with long-term vision?
I couldn't get it. How does one?
How does one balance the need for rapid growth and long-term vision, sir?
Okay. Rapid growth and long-term vision. Interesting question. See, your business, whenever you start a business, your business is always based on a vision, which is defining the process in which your business is operating. Correct? So, what is your, first you have to question what is your vision. So your vision is probably, to be a leader in a particular market, or to be the single stop solution for these kind of customers, or, to be the go-to company for these kind of customers. There has to be a vision, right? Or whatever the vision is. So ultimately, normally visions are to be, sorry, to be market leaders in certain areas, in your line or in your domain or in your line of business. But when the vision is set, when you start a business, when you start operating, you are operating depending on the dynamics of your business and the dynamics of the market. Correct? Okay. So when you operate on the dynamics of your business, so your dynamics of your business is dependent on the dynamics of the market, because if your market, the way your market guides you, that's how your business tailors itself to go in with the market. And again, with the strategies, as I always keep on saying, the concept of sustainability, how you will make sure that nobody is disrupting what you're doing. So first is, before rapid growth, find out whether you have well covered disruption and you have a long-term strategy to take care of that, first. Second, is your infrastructure capable of supporting that particular growth? Second. Third is, if you're looking at rapid growth, you definitely would have a market in question, right? You definitely would have a target market in question. Understand what the demand of that target market is, because that, again, your business is going to start participating in that particular target market dynamics. So these are very intricate things. People say, okay, chalo, acha chal raha hai, chalo, let's expand. Investment comes in and it expands, and suddenly things don't go well. So you have to understand why. What is the why in all these things? What happens? What is that thing that creates that chemistry which does not work? So rapid growth has to follow, first and foremost, these basic understandings. Okay, and that is where that will gradually take you towards your vision, because your vision is a holistic view of your business. That's an entrepreneur's vision. Always remember, the business is all about humans. Treat your business as a human being. Basically, that vision is your vision. And you are into an operation which is completely dependent on the system on which you are operating and the market with which you are operating. Correct? So the the growth, the speed and the growth and everything that depends on that dynamic of your internal dynamics of your business process and the dynamics of your relationship with the market. So you have to study that dynamic very, very well to understand at what stage you have to grow and at what stage you need to, when you need to stop, at what stage you need to put the brakes, or what stage you need to change the gears and everything.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for your engaging questions and participation in today's session. We truly appreciate your curiosity and enthusiasm. A special thank you to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Sanyal, for sharing your valuable insights and expertise. Hoping to see you on campus for an offline session really soon.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this session. And thank you so much for having me. And once again, my heartfelt thanks to IIT Gandhinagar for having me and accommodating me for this session. Thank you so much. Wish you all the guys all the best. If you want to connect with me, I'll just share my screen with you. You can, I am available on LinkedIn, and I am also available on, just a moment. Just give me a second. I'll just share it. So, okay, I hope you can see my screen, guys.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah. So that's my LinkedIn profile. You can always email me whenever. I am very prompt with emails. Only in case I'm traveling. That is the only point. There might be a lag in me responding. And remember, guys, my day starts at 4:30 in the morning and it ends at 10 o'clock in the night. So if you're sending me a message at 12, remember, you'll get the reply next day 4:30 in the morning. So this is where you can reach out to me. And thank you again so much. I really, really appreciate all of you in having me there. And I wish you all the best. I want all of you to tread the entrepreneur path. And believe me, it's a brilliant concept. The concept of entrepreneurship is brilliant. Wish you all the best. God bless you all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks again.